Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you. I'm not 100% sure about it, but for the second Tuesday in a row, WWE Network has released a special WWE Rivalries. This is a network show that seems to be back, having a revival. Maybe the first run of shows was sort of like as a tester, but honestly, when it comes down to it, this is my favorite show that the WWE Network has on it. I love the way that they style these feuds. Maybe sometimes they don't cover the entire feud. They cover a portion of the feud, sort of with what this WWE Rivalries did with talking about Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat. This was a very good one. Honestly, I still think that the Flair versus Dusty Rhodes is going to be very hard to beat. But like I said, WWE Rivalries consistently is one of the best shows on the WWE Network, giving you things that you've never seen before, and it's already giving you insider info, making you want to go out and check this out. Honestly, if this was a DVD, this would probably be one of the best WWE releases that they've come up with. If you were able to put this 30-minute documentary show and then put like the matches that are talked about, whether if it's the matches boiling back to the Mid-Atlantic Wrestling, or the old NWA or something like that, and then putting in the matches from the then I guess it was the NWA then, the 1989 matches, the triple matches in a row, the one where he returned as the tag team person, the Chi-Town Rumble, and then Wrestle War down the road. That would be a great release for WWE Network to put out. But during this, they talked a lot about the starting days of Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat, who I didn't know were so close to the same age. I've honestly thought that Flair was older and was sort of like more of a veteran when Ricky Steamboat came in. But back in 1977, when Ricky Steamboat debuted, he was the young babyface that Ric Flair saw something in as the mid-card sort of a television champion. Ric Flair was known as the guy that was coming up in the ranks, that was having great matches, but people were starting to think that it was people having good matches with Ric Flair, and that Ric Flair wasn't able to really, bring somebody up. So Ric Flair had been there. He'd had matches against Wahoo McDaniel and other headliners that passed through the territory, but he sort of saw Ricky Steamboat walk into the office one day and said, "This is the guy that he wants to work with," and they set up a series of matches, and during one of the matches, Ricky Steamboat surprised the world by beating Ric Flair and taking his NWA Mid-Atlantic Television Championship, and for the next a few years, it would be Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair, going to school, and it was Ric Flair teaching Ricky Steamboat how to work. In the territory days, you would just be driving down the road, and at every town you'd stop in, there'd be another show, and, he'd just work and work and work to the point where Steamboat was up to the standard of Ric Flair, and they knew where each other were going, and going back and forth and everything like that. Once their run basically got to the place where it was over, Ricky Steamboat left the NWA to head to greener pastures, where he would go to the WWF for the years of 1985 and through about 1988. A lot of the guys went there at this time, to take the bigger money, to work the WrestleManias. Vince was expanding his territory. They were working a lot more shows. The money was greener, like I said, and Steamboat went there and was sort of put into the Intercontinental title picture as sort of a mid-card, really popular wrestler. Of course, everybody knows about the power of WrestleMania 3, where Ricky Steamboat would have one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time against the Macho Man Randy Savage. I can't remember which wrestling podcast I was listening to, but they were talking a lot about the Honky Tonk Man, and if he was a great Intercontinental Champion, or if it was just he had the longest reign than anybody else. Of course, the Honky Tonk Man beat Ricky Steamboat very shortly into his run as the Intercontinental Champion. Some people think that it was sort of a punishment on Ricky Steamboat for the fact that Steamboat Upstage, Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, everyone was talking about Macho Man versus Steamboat, but I don't know, how you could hold it against Ricky Steamboat. I know that he won the match, but, there was two guys in there, and Macho Man Randy Savage, the next year at WrestleMania, would go on to win the WWF Championship in the tournament, and of course, Ricky Steamboat would be involved in there, but the story that I'd always heard was that Ricky Steamboat won the tournament and then decided that he wanted to take some time off the road. Vince got mad at the fact that Ricky Steamboat was trying to, not work shows and basically be home with his family, and that's not the path that Vince was going for when he put the championship on Steamboat. So he had Steamboat drop the championship to the Honky Tonk Man on television on an episode of Superstars, and then by the end of the year, Ricky Steamboat was gone, and he had left the WWF to go back to the NWA. Of course, everybody knows that the way that Ricky Steamboat would debut as a surprise partner for a big television match where it would be Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert and a mystery man known as Mr. X going up against Ric Flair and Barry Windham. And in this match, Steamboat made his return, came down to the ring. They wrestled in a tag team match, and, making his debut, Ricky Steamboat pinned Ric Flair right there in the middle of the ring on TBS, which would set up, Ricky Steamboat becoming the #1 contender. WWF can really learn something from this. I know that they have to put on a Raw and a SmackDown each and every week, but, back in the old days, you didn't get to see Flair wrestle on television that much. And even if, the champion was involved in a tag team match, that tag team match meant something. If somebody pinned somebody, that was a reason for somebody to get a title shot. So many times today, you see Seth Rollins, the WWE champion, he gets pinned in a tag team match, he gets pinned in a singles match. And it is what it is. And then it's just never brought up again. They do it with the Intercontinental title. They do it with the U.S. title. They do it with the Divas Championship. Just, it's like Nikki Bella said, who's got the belt matters, wins and losses don't matter. But from there, this would be one of the greatest years in Ricky Steamboat's career, which would be 1989. He would come in and become the #1 contender from pinning Ric Flair on television. That they would bring them to the Chi-Town Rumble, which is a very sort of weird event. If you go watch this on the WWE Network, you can check out the Dave Meltzer sitting in the front row. He's very easy to spot. I believe he's wearing a green shirt, and he's got the sort of poofy, permed out hair, and he's really into this match. He cheers for Flair, he cheers for Steamboat. You can really tell that he was just having the time of his life watching a great wrestling match. And for, people who really like, the wrestling that's involved in wrestling, a lot of people talk about this as one of the greatest wrestling matches of all time. And in this match, it was all about, Ricky Steamboat trying to achieve his dream, bringing this to be the Year of the Dragon. And Steamboat would beat Ric Flair in this match, rolling him up for a pin, becoming the champion, which would, of course, then bring them to going in a 2 out of 3 falls match, which I believe was at a Clash of the Champions. And in this match, we saw Ricky the Dragon Steamboat beat Ric Flair, yet once again in controversial fashion. In the third fall, Steamboat pins Flair, but Flair's foot was under the rope, and Ric Flair went to his attorney, who filed a lawsuit against the NWA and Ricky Steamboat, basically saying that within 30 days, Ricky Steamboat would have to give a rematch to Ric Flair, because the match that was on the Clash of the Champions was not a real finish. From there, they would go on to Wrestle War 89, another really, really great match. Here is the match where Steamboat would fall to Ric Flair, giving the championship back. But a lot of people were really surprised that at the rematch, it was not given back to him. So Steamboat being able to have a longer run with the championship was really a big surprise. If you believe in the Dave Meltzer scale of 5-star matches, which honestly I've heard him on his wrestling podcast talk about the fact that they don't have as much of a meaning as people like to give them. All 3 of the 1989 Steamboat versus Flair matches were all given 5 stars. So that basically just means this is the match that you really need to go out of your way and see. But the rivalry of Flair versus Steamboat was mostly about the fact that NWA was playing off that Ricky Steamboat was a family guy. He loved his son, he loved his wife. Ric Flair was a guy who was married, but he also loved his women, had lots of dates, and they just were, the playboy against the family man. And just when you guys put these together, it was like oil and water, and the matches were so good that it just really fired up the NWA. 1989 was one of the hottest times in professional wrestling for this organization, and it was all because of Flair and Steamboat. And like I said, I wish this was a DVD where I just could continue on watching. I know that it'd be easy. I'd probably just have to type in Steamboat versus Flair in the search feature of the WWE Network, and these matches would pop right up for me. But I wish this was something that I had in my collection. I'm really a strong DVD collector, and I like having footage at my at just being able to grab it and put it on the shelf. So we'll see what goes down in the foreseeable future. Hopefully we'll have another WWE Rivalries. There was no commercial at the end coming up next week, so just sort of cross your fingers. There's not a lot of real big promotion for this show. Honestly, I didn't know that this show was going to be on tonight until WWE tweeted about it on my lunch today about 2 or 3 o'clock saying don't miss this. So it's going to be a fun one. I'll see you guys down the road. Maybe it'll be a table for 3 tomorrow.